Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to review the Mina Protocol. So for those who are unfamiliar with my channel, what I do is I run cryptocurrency projects through a model, and that model has an output, and we weigh the results of the model's output over time to see if it was accurate predictions and reflect and modify the model so that it better correlates with higher ROI over time. So basically, just trying to come up with a model that will predict the best ROI projects in the cryptocurrency space. This is the model's output for the Mina protocol, and so I'm going to get right into it. Okay, so what problems market does this project currently serve, etc.? It uses the Ouroboros. So basically, it has a different consensus engine. It uses the Ouroboros Samasika consensus proof of stake model, and that consensus. It's consensus without long-term history of the blockchain. It doesn't need to store a bunch of keys, previous output keys from the previous hashes or whatever from the subsequent blockchain, subsequent events. So it allows for it to save a lot of memory space in the blockchain, or it doesn't even, it doesn't require having the blockchain for running that. It's more like it's just a different consensus model. But it does have a blockchain for its archiving system. But basically, it just doesn't, like a lot of blockchains, they grow exponentially in data stored in the blockchain, and that it's unsustainable. This project attempts to solve that using what's the word I'm looking for here? Recursive zk-SNARK technology. So the entire blockchain is always 22 kilobytes. It's near instant any device syncing, succinct form of transaction storage. Basically, succinct meaning a small amount but conveying the same message. So succinct form of transaction, meaning it carries small amounts of information to validate that the information is a valid part of the participants in the network. So it's a valid transaction, etc. The succinct proof of state for the SNARK-based compressed proof of state allows for fully decentralized architecture for full nodes or cheaper forever snaps, new type of applications using the SNARK technology. So basically, this is to not get too much into the weeds. zk-SNARKs is the ability to prove that you have a set of data or have completed a set of data without having to give away any information about that data. So it is like a proof that you have done something and without giving away information. And so that technology allows for you to wrap up entire processes with just the validation validation process, which is the ZK process. Block validators use the Mina tokens to buy proof of SNARKs. The tokens are used for that validator as well as the proof of stake component. Payments oriented, but account based system. So it's it just uses the Ethereum type of system for its accounting based. It's proof of stake. So so far, Mina looks like to be a superior form of digital scarcity if everything works out with its implementation. So it could be a good form for the digital scarcity market that Bitcoin wants to implement for those. So it could be very powerful in that angle. One of the markets that could serve as simple digital scarcity items, tokens, etc. Another thing that it could do is oracles. Are not economically incentivized, but rather using proofs can be computationally heavy, though, to do these. So basically, it could serve another thing that the Mina protocol could serve as Oracle infrastructure because it can allow for instead. Traditional blockchains use incentive models to incentivize the participants to behave in certain ways. This one could actually use proof, so that through the execution of the Oracle data feed, that the actual process happened rather than trusting participants that are incentivized to behave a certain way. I think both are reliable in my opinion, but that is a different way of doing things, and so we'll have different pros and cons associated with it. It is more technical to implement, establishes high level of trust, however, but so does incentivization parties, in my opinion, because that hasn't broken down either. Can provide data intake on to other chains. So yes, it could be an Oracle infrastructure as well. So the Mina Protocol, what have we learned so far just in this, because there's a lot of that I've just unraveled here. It's basically a different consensus model, and it could serve the L1 space, but has different type of architecture for servicing different type of markets using proofs. So it's just a little bit more. So zk-SNARK is this is everything I just went over pretty much. But here's the idea. Instead of having to carry the data with it forever, you establish a proof, and then that goes into the next formula, which establishes a proof, which can go into the next formula, which establishes the proof, which can go into the next formula. So you don't have to carry a lot of data. You could just carry a number that is derived from a previous number, and then that number is modified again, etc. So it proves that the process, transaction, and interaction is a valid part of the participants in the network and is not invalidating the network. So the ZK, and then you could do the same thing with functionalities like L1 functionalities, if you know what L1s are. And then there is the archive nodes to store the long-term history, because, you might ask the question, how does this thing, if the blockchain stays the same size forever, well, where does all the data go? And so you have something called archive nodes, which much of this is stored via centralized processes currently. But that is, one of the weaknesses, so to speak. But all right, so let's just get into the model's output. We're talking about price performance here and what the model can expect based on that. So I put neutral for increased price of the token, price FOMO, put a neutral implementation of that. Regarding the social media, you're not super early for that. The timeline for this looks good. What we have here is we're in Q2 of this year so far, and we have within the next couple of quarters of the year, we could see software development kits. This is extremely important that this gets implemented. Software development kits is what allows developers to make apps on your system. There's token generation abilities like ERC20, so that's going to be an implementation that might happen soon. ZK dApps, which is, dApps that run in the same type of proofing mechanism. So that could be good. They could be light client dApps. Easy ability to program on mainnet. So there will be easy ability to program on and ZK Oracle. So all of these are the things that we could expect from the roadmap within the next year. So money needed to move price up decreases, put that as neutral. Tokens on the sell side decreases, put it as neutral. The token metrics components, so like tokens supply distribution, movement to PDEs, dividend irrelevancy, I put all these things as neutral. I do expect it to be slow income to support such a light network. Until they acquire, utility and you get those transactions. In order to get this thing to be really useful, is they have to get a lot of transactions to make that token economic model work. To allow for the proof of stake incentives to play out well. So they do need the clientele and get some products and stuff on board so that the token model could look good from that angle. Low inflation, inflation's like 7%, but this is decided by the token itself, so, by the token being a representation of ownership of the network, so that we know that they will choose to optimize that based on what they want to be successful. Regarding the market cap, it's not a super low market cap. It's 370 million, circulating 700 million. Diluted price is 66 cents, so that's not a super low market cap. Regarding ICO performance, there is some danger here. We are 2.5x from the ICO, 5x in terms of ETH, 8x in terms of Bitcoin. So there is some risk. It's been a while since the ICO. So if there's non-believers in that ICO group, they might have left already, but they still are sitting on heavy profits. So there is some risk of ICO dumpage taking place. Regarding this thing's performance against the average crypto, it's pretty much the same, very similar, negative 68%, negative 41% for the general crypto market. So it's on par with the general crypto market. So it's similar to average performance, and it's not under any FOMO, so that we know that that is a good time to enter if you do believe in this project. Now would be like one of the times to enter because the price performance is not under any fear of missing out type of activities. We are in a massive bear market at the making of this video, so that is the time. That's why this is green, to enter if you are interested, if you think this is a winner. Now, regarding the vision to create a vibrant decentralized network of open programmable currency. So, it's, fitting that typical ability to send value over the internet protocols. But the thing is when this thing is fully implemented, it will be one of the more decentralized cryptos. That is one of their strong suits. One of the selling cases of this project is that because it uses a ZK technology, anyone will be able to be a supporter of the network using the proof of stake system. You won't need specialized hardware. You will, like even Bitcoin has huge mining facilities, or Ethereum will need huge mining facilities, or if you're in a proof of stake, you will need specialized hardware to service the network. This one, because it's so light, you won't need specialized hardware. Anyone will be able to be a participant in the network, a validator in this network using a phone or whatever, because the small size of the blockchain using the recursive technology. So that is one of the selling points of this, is that it will be extremely decentralized when it's up and running and fully going, and the tokens get distributed well, etc. That's when it will be fully decentralized. I put it as medium right now, decentralization, because the team is still a critical component. And those participants that are building into it are still, if they were to leave, it would still, it might fail. So it is, when it's fully supported by distributed systems, that's when I would put it as fully decentralized. But it is medium decentralized, so etc. So it is extremely important that those who bought are represented. Yes, the token is ownership of the network because it is proof of stake. Mechanism of quality, because the validators run the network, they will be the ones making the good decisions here on what is a future implementation. So the technical group will be the validators, those who are running the nodes. The team is trustworthy, but it does require some degree of trust, given its stage in the product development. The token will be total control over this. So I expect high quality actions, etc. So all the government stuff looks good. Now, regarding the team, they don't have any major home runs or anything like big billion-dollar startups, major inventions, or 1 million customers in their history. So I put them as neutral as far as, they don't have any major home runs. But the team is trustworthy, from their interviews, etc. They seem to be very technically competent and are delivering on this this blockchain. Strategic partnerships and backers. They work with the Ethereum Foundation. They also have Coinbase as an investor, Pantera Capital, and Polychain. So this lends to the fact that they made those sales, those partnerships, that you can know that they have been screened by those organizations, which are pretty profound organizations. But there's been no major customer onboarding yet that I've seen. Those are just investors. Okay, regarding developers, when all these things go live with the SDK and everything, I think that the developer ecosystem will be good, and they also have means of keeping the system running, through that inflationary element and the validator ROI, etc. So they will have ability for developers to participate in the long-term survival of this project and continually doing upgrades. User experience, I expect that to get better over time, and the user services provided to get better over time. I expect that to be the case. The moat, protection from competition once this thing is thriving. I expect that to be the case. Like if you get certain customer bases to set up their business models, the business logic in your system, then it will be more sticky for them to leave. So that's what the moat really means. And yes, I think there will be an element of that here, as well as the flywheel, which is the, like the more success they get, it will feed back if that happens. Now, head-to-head terms of So Charles, head-to-head, what that means is like what the competitors say about it. So Charles Hodgkinson has said 1 year ago, he said Ouroboros and SNARKs is slow to implement. Research on recursive SNARKs is still theoretical. It's difficult stuff to do. It is unsettled theory, and application has been yet to been proven. Skeptical on unsettled science. Claims to be cautious on timelines. Now, Cardano is someone that you should definitely understand. It has been something to be slow to implement. However, they are in the theoretical space, so they would know on those things. So that is Charles's input on this project. Vitalik has said, we know that zk-SNARKs will be able to do anything. Ways to prove you can run a program without knowing you did the intended data. So basically, that's our definition of a zk-SNARK that we went over earlier. This proofing of an algorithm running or a proofing of an application running as it stated. This is powerful stuff. The proof is where you save on computation by offloading that computation. So that's the stuff. So it seems very positive type of stuff from the competition, which validates the narrative of the project. Okay, so, but I didn't put it was the best of the competition because because it's being built from the ground up, and it will have unique markets. So that could be a thing there, that it will have unique market elements. But because they're building it from the ground up, it will have that strict competitive. It's in a competitive environment for L1 space. But we do need a lot of L1s for the future of running the world's financial infrastructure. But I just put that as neutral. So network effect, neutral. Tokens per person, neutral. Fees that burn a token. There is no fee mechanism that burns a token. Niche serving a market now. I put that as neutral. Mainnet is live, but because it only really runs a token running around, and it hasn't. This is the niche will be live soon with the roadmap. When they launch the SDK. In my opinion, it's not really live until the SDK is launched, because that is what allows for programmers to develop things on your stuff. So that's why I put that as neutral. Exponential growth. The Mina Explorer transactions are trending to the side, and the number of accounts is 112,000, and it's kind of trending to the side. The roadmap is once again important for this exponential growth, so we'll see that in the future. The project could change on that when it implements that kind of stuff in the future. But it's not really live right now with the niche. The liquidity depth plus or minus 100,000, so that's good. It has decent liquidity, which means that it is well supported financially from that angle. Now, getting into the core elements of this project, the token used for services and governance. The token is a proof of stake used to buy, sell SNARK proofs, off-chain governance, and ownership of the network. So the token is ownership of the network, basically, being a proof of stake system, and it is part of the infrastructure. It is part of the incentive model to keep the system running. So the token is valid and useful as far as being a participant in the network. It will go along for the ride if this is a successful platform. The value of the target market. Now, one of the things to consider, this is a slower implementation of blockchain technology, because it's only 22 transactions per second. It takes an hour to reach 99 determined finality, which is kind of slow. It's like Bitcoin speeds, but that could still be good for payments because we know that this blockchain will not grow. And it will have a unique niche with its zk programming language, which allows for proofing of running algorithms, etc. Running code with proofs. Is Web3 architecture. So the market is huge for that with the Web3 architecture, and it could find a niche with its specific ZK technology. But regarding business models demanding token, I don't think that would be a big case, because it is just regular proof of stake, and there's no really incentive for that, except for if they wanted to be an ROI participant, or maybe if they wanted governance, and if they built their business logic, there might be a case for that. So, but I just put it as neutral. Okay, so that is the model summary. Pros and cons will have a unique utility sets. The roadmap hype in the bull market is possible, so it could get price momentum from that. The cons, they have to build many components from the ground up, which is what they even said they were doing. And it's not scalable or secure without huge, large workload upgrades, because the architecture nodes, they need to get those architecture nodes to be incentivized and running the system of running a distributed architecture support, which is the actual where blockchain goes with that element, as well as the so you got the architecture nodes, as well as how slow it looks to be up front. Maybe they'll come up with technologies in the future to fix that. But so that could add some convolutedness to how they get this thing up and running with the architecture nodes. All right, the low market cap with accomplished CEO. So these are just the summary items. Low market cap with accomplished CEO, I put no. Early to social media, I put no. And live niche, I did put yes, even though it is soon to be much more. But I gave it that one because it is mainnet has been launched. Okay, so that is it. If you like unbiased information, and if your goal is to correlate to higher ROIs, please like and subscribe. Now I'm going to go into my Patreon group, which I put my final analysis on what I'm going to be doing and my approach personally for that group. That's where I elucidate on that. All right, later, guys.